Alright, project Clampy. I know Fred Williams owns a trademark on Clampy, but once my then 3-year-old son first saw Clampy, he's called off-road trucks Clampy trucks, and henceforth this truck became known as Clampy. Imitation and flattery and all that, but what I just filmed is the intake manifold gasket on this sucker is leaking bad. I done a couple videos where I was like, alright, I'm going to show you how to tune a carburetor, and I never got this thing to run right. And the sad truth is that nothing I did was wrong, but I didn't want to put it up because it still wasn't right. You get what I mean? Until one day just messing with it. I even changed the carburetor. That's a fully rebuilt 550 Holly, and I have a 400 Holly somewhere that might go back on after this, just because I think it fits the setup a little better and it's a little easier to understand. But anyway, backing the truck up, you're never going to get your engine tuned right if you have a vacuum leak. I chased all the vacuum hoses, but it wasn't until I sprayed that brake clean around my intake manifold around the base that I realized that my gasket is shot. So basically, yes, I could pull that intake manifold off, clean it up, throw it back on, and call everything done. Ignore this, I got boxes for several projects. Or I could fairly cheaply upgrade. To, I've not yet seen this, and I may not be able to get it out with just one hand. Hold on. Oh my goodness. To that sucker. This is a Speedmaster intake manifold. It is a dual plane, I think is high rise, because it's got a little rise to it. Manifold that should fit right onto there. And what's nice about this guy is he has not only the bolts for an LA style Dodge Mopar 360, but also the bolts for a Magnum style. So if I ever decide that this engine's shot, let's say I grenade it, whatever else, I've already toyed around with the idea of putting a Magnum into this, and that's why I haven't thrown a whole bunch of money at this engine, because I don't know what's going to live under. I'm definitely not going to do a Hemi, just because of the complexity. I mean, I've already done a fuel injected LS and that thing. And I kind of want to keep this thing old school on a budget, and you can get a Magnum 360 for like stupid cheap, as opposed to a Hemi, which if you get the 5.7 is still not bad. But I mean, let's face it, anybody can build anything with all the money in the world and all the parts in the world, but I think it takes a little bit extra to build something that stays on a budget. So I'm going to get this thing the rest of the way unboxed. I'll show you what it looks like and what I think of the quality of it, and we'll go over how hard it is to fit onto that stupid thing. Alright, here we go. Alright, what I like. I like the price. I think this thing was only like $200 or $220 or something. So that's definitely something that's really got going for it. I like the machine work. There's nothing I found, the sharp edges, rough edges, anything like that. Honestly, I mean, it's not CNC ported by any means, but at the same fact is if you're going to go full tilt with this thing, you might want to just port your own anyway. It does not include gaskets. It does, however, include all these. which I think these studs right here are for plugging the holes you don't use. And it's got some washers, and like right there you can see a plug for all the holes you don't use. Not a bad piece. It's definitely going to be overly qualified for what we're about to do, but I'm going to go ahead and crawl underneath this stupid thing, start draining the coolant, and we'll go from there. Alright, amazingly that went exactly as I expected it to, where I got antifreeze all over the floor and almost none in the pan. But, alright, I'm going to start. I'm probably not going to finish today tearing. I got to take the air cleaner off, which is easy, carburetor, fairly easy. Get all these hoses off, medium easy, and start disconnecting a whole bunch of crap so we can see what we're left with. Alright. In case you're wondering why I decided to change this manifold instead of putting the same one back on, just, you know, taking it off, cleaning it off, putting it back on, it's that right there. Because this was never meant to have even a 4-barrel on it. And that adapter plate and everything, just, it's hideous. I hate it. So we're changing it. The end. Well, I'm going to have to admit a few things. Number one, that sucked. That sucker is huge and it's heavy. I mean, I almost couldn't get it up out, and as a matter of fact, I think I cracked my radiator trying to get it out. A little line there, that's either it cracked or that's, I mean, I had a patch on there before and that patch might have opened up some. So I'm going to have to decide on that one. Probably patch it up again because that's how I roll. Maybe order a new radiator, I don't know. But it's very evident by the amount of orange sealer. Because I found orange sealer all over this thing. I found orange sealer on the headers at one point. I took those off. But somebody else knew they had a leak too. And those two bolts at the back kind of threw me off for a minute. I almost ended up breaking stuff trying to get them off. But the one on this side, this side, was a lot harder to get than the one on that side once I remembered I had a bendy ratchet. But okay, let's I'm not going to bore you with the details. I'm going to double, triple check this thing. Make sure I didn't drop anything down in the valley, the lifter valley. Very surprised there's not a valley pan. I'm going to actually take a break and go and check if there should be one. thought there'd be a lifter pan cover over that. We'll find out. Alright, time to do some homework. Alright, so I'm not going to say that the budget's going to get a little bit, well, I'm not going to say I'm going to blow the budget, but the budget's going to have to grow a little bit. Mostly because this water inlet is for a 78 and older Dodge thermostat housing. And this is an 89 Dodge thermostat housing. It is not only rotated and a little over to the side, which I knew that getting it. I figured, you know, I could just take that one, turn it, bolt it on, and then move my hose over a little bit, and it would be fine. Still not sure about the hose part of it, but the one thing I found out is the measurement between those two bolt holes and the overall size of the thermostat housing is different. This one is 3 1/4 inches bolt hole to bolt hole, so this is for a pre-78 Mopar big block small block thermostat housing, which I'm going to have to get one, just the way it is. Also, I'm going to try, and this diameter measures 1 inch, which tells me it should be about a 3/4 inch pipe thread. I'm going to find out if it's 3/4 or 5/8. I'm not sure. Because I'm going to have to get a 1 inch adapter for this. Just call me, it's a learning experience. I thought maybe I can unthread it and unthread this, but that just doesn't seem to be the case. I'm thinking it's 5/8 because most of what I'm seeing is 5/8. And of course that would make sense. And then for my what do you call it, heater core, we're gonna have to run off of probably this guy right here, unless I want to do some major modifications. But I do have to agree again, like I can lift this one with one hand. I mean, it's not super heavy, but this thing is just stupid. When you compare them side by side, like I can't pick this one up. Like I have to grunt with both hands and get my, bend my knees and, heave ho. That one, like I said, I can lift with one hand. So it's a huge astronomical weight savings. I'm going to have to get a new one of these guys too, because I don't know if you can see that, but that's like a Christmas tree that, apparently I had some other vacuum leaks I didn't know about. But I need that to run my brakes. And, yeah. We'll have to get, I got the fitting out for the temperature gauge, so I should be able to run the temperature gauge I already have set up. Yeah. Of course, I could move my heater core back to here too. I might do that. Plug that hole, because that hole's a little smaller than that one. This one must be. Oh wait, that wouldn't work, because that's air. And I believe this one is too. Hopefully, I'll be able to fit. I might set my carburetor up there just to make sure, but hopefully, I'll be able to fit my air vacuum for the brake booster right to there. Alright, time to sit down at the computer and do some ordering. Alright, I just trying to figure out what size all these fittings are. This one is a 3/4, so for my truck I need 3/4 to 1 inch adapter, which I found online and then forgot to write down, and I will get it later. My heater hose is going to be 3/8. I know that because that's what size that is. This is a 3/4, and I'm getting rid of the Christmas tree looking thing, because I'm only running my brake booster off it, and this little 1/2 inch to, looks like 3/8 neck down whatcha-higgy will work, hose barb. And then this guy here will get plugged, along with this guy here will get plugged. And then we should be ready to put on. I did some Google searching, and I'll probably do a bit more about the valley tray. And apparently it wasn't really a big deal on these Mopars. There were some that got it, and then there were some that didn't. I had thought there was one, which was my mistake, because then I was just going to use it to cover up while I cleaned up my gasket surfaces. But it looks like I have to lay some towels in there or something, and then I'm going to try my best to get all the oil sopped up with rags and basically cleaned out of there, so that I can what do you call it? Get all the dirt out if I lose a little bit of oil. Oh well. And I should have pulled the valve cover gaskets. When I pulled it, I did bend them up a little bit. I'll take them off and hammer them straight again in a little bit, but I don't want to do that right now, because that's just, you know, if I don't have, whenever I clean this up, if I don't get anything in there, then I don't have anything to clean up. And it just dawned on me, I says, I think I got to relocate this guy too, even though I have no idea what he does. So he might go in that hole. Alright, getting to it. So, now's come the time to deal with the part that I didn't want to deal with. And it's all this orange silicone. And all this crap that's on top of here, and all that sludge. Apologize for my neighbor mowing, but I'm going to fill the valley up with some rags, get my scraper and my buffer out, get the scraper in and buffer in, and basically just see where it goes. I'm going to use some solvent, flush out the valleys and everywhere I might get some dirt as much as possible, and then before I put the new manifold on, I'm going to go ahead and change oil too. Okay. Here comes the montage. Some oil left over from my last change. Like I said, just trying to flush everything down into the oil pan. So, in case you're wondering, that should be evidence enough that yes, I did change oil. After a little while working on this truck, and as you can see, after I took off the, sorry for shaking you, the intake manifold, you can see all that orange colored sealer. And I found that everywhere you can find that orange covered sealer is where, well, quite frankly, they were in over their heads with what they do. So I'm going to go ahead and lay me some new gaskets down. I'm not sure if I'm going to use the cork ones or not. This one I think is the O-ring for the distributor, which I did not remove. And we'll see where we end up. Okay? Alright, part numbers of stuff. First off, heater hose fitting. And I am going to locate my heater hose back here. This is a water jacket, and this does go into that same passage. It doesn't cross over anymore, which I don't think is going to be a big issue, because you're going to have, you know, flow up here. We'll find out. It's the way they designed it. I'm not an engineer, so I don't care. And then this guy for your heater hose bypass. Right there. Ta-da. He screws into the front here. Like I said, this guy got it at a hardware store, so he's taken care of. And the thermostat housing. Wait. Chrome Mopar WATERNECK. I'm going with this guy right here, the Summit Racing number. I did get this thermostat because you need, I think it's a 78 or older thermostat, and this is supposed to be a thermostat for like a 78 Monaco. But when you put it, I don't know, it just doesn't, sorry, it doesn't fit. So I could run it without one, but I'll probably just run down my local Napa and grab one. I got two different length carb stud bolt kits. I'm not going to go into those because, quite frankly, it'll depend on what you get. And I got these guys just because, I mean, the bolts I took out were crazy and all different lengths. So I'm going to take this off for now. I set this aside. So I'm going to get a chance to run in town and get my thermostat. I'm just going to put a dab every so often. And the reason for that is so that if I ever have to remove this again, I don't have to, I don't have to scrape quite so much. I might just have to peel off a dab or two, but it will help hold the gasket in place. That's my idea. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to try to get this on camera. Just go. Just like this. That gasket does not fit. So much. Well, it's almost the end of April in Pennsylvania. Anyway. Getting back to this quick speed guy. My camera battery died. I didn't realize it last time I was working on it. But I got everything set on there. Yes, I will admit, now after thinking about it, I should have done this to begin with, so don't be me. But I went ahead and taped off the carburetor base plate. And for a while I had the thermostat housing taped off. I just don't want to drop anything in there. It's my own thing. But with all that said, here's where I got some of the reason why, what I do like and what I don't like. First off, why did I put the heater core back air and the thermostat or the temperature probe up here when I could have flip-flopped them? Number one is because I think there's going to be more coolant flow up here because it's, you know, right there's a pump and thermostat and everything, so more coolant is going to be moving back here. That side is deadheaded. So your temperature probe would only go in on this side, and it would only measure kind of the coolant on this bank. I think it'll be fine for the heater core though. There is a passage on this side to get coolant up. Now there isn't on the other side, and the passage only leads right there. So I thought if I evacuated coolant from back there, even when it's just when the heater's running, it might help engine life, all that other crappy crap. With that said though, I was worried that not having a crossover there might affect the engine temperature and how it runs and all that good crap. Well, I went to move my old one and I rolled it over on its side to pick it up, and as you can see, this is the front coolant passage. This is where the thermostat was. Same. See? Straight across. But if you go back here, yeah, there's no water getting through that no matter how. So I think that was done as an old hot rodder trick or something to help keep the intake manifold cooler, because it's kind of funny how the performance intake manifold has, you know, no provisions for it, and this piece of hunk of iron is just blocked off, and I think that's that cement they used to fill coolant passages with at the drag strip. Like it's solid. But yeah. So I also got the right thermostat. I used one for a 77, I believe, Dodge Ramcharger pickup, and it fit in. There was no modifications to this hose. However, excuse me, burp. The bypass, I did have to cut about a ½ inch off of it on that end. Trimmed it. Fit right in. The vacuum hose for the brake booster hooks right up. Got my distributor back in place, and I also pounded in the little grommets. I wasn't gonna put them in initially because I just thought that, okay, that's one more thing I'd have to remove if I ever swap the intake manifold, but after thinking about it, I just don't want them filling up with gook and grease and dirt and everything. So, you know, they moved. I did, out of my stash of bolts, believe it or not, have enough zinc plated bolts to do the head. They're grade 5. Yes, I know they're grade 5. The ones I replaced were probably grade 8. However, you got to look at what are you torquing down. I think each grade 5 bolt holds like 5,000 foot-pounds. I'd have to look into it, but I think it's going to be plenty, because you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on each side. So let's just say that there's 5,000 foot-pound or 5,000 pounds holding force on each one. 5 times 8 is 40, times 2 is 80. There's 80,000 pounds of shear force holding this intake manifold down on the low end, if I estimate it. So should be good enough. Should still be able to pick it up. Should be fine. I routed my temperature probe underneath the, the runners, just because it fit nice there. My distributor, or my coil, I got that put back on. I just dug into my stash, and I found some more of those zinc plated bolts. And what I do like, and you can't really see from here, is before I could never see, I can only touch the distributor bolt. I couldn't see it. Now I can physically see it. If I bring the light over, you can look right through there. You can see it clear as day. I am not sure if I'm going to reuse the valve covers I had. Spring Carlisle's this weekend, and there's a good probability that if I find a set of somewhat racy but older valve covers, I'll slap them on. I kind of think that's what the theme of this engine is going to be, is like racy but budget racy. And the stock stamped steel valve covers just don't do it for me. But I don't want to put like a brand new set of Edelbrocks on here, or aluminum finned super fancy trick ones, because I just think that it would clash with the rest of the truck. Like I thought long and hard, like even all this grease and stuff I got in the intake manifold, I'm not going to clean that off because, you know, sentimental character, I guess you could call it. But yeah, we're going to move right along. I probably won't work on this today till after I get back from Carlisle and whenever parts come in. But I still got other stuff to do. I'm doing the rears in this thing too. They'll be in different videos. I'm going to go ahead and start tearing apart the front. I got a little bit of squish out on my silicone. Should be good. And I think I just cured, oops, what was the world's largest oil leak out of the back here, because there was oil all over the backside of that thing. And whenever I took it apart, that gasket came out in like 7 different pieces. So no doubt that I shouldn't leak as much oil. But that's enough jibber jabber. I've been jibber jabbering too much. Oh, and none of my hose clamps are tight. I know that, and the reason is because this way I know they're all not tight. I don't have to worry about tomorrow which ones I did tighten or didn't tighten. Once I get everything figured out, I'll just go through, tighten them all, and it'll be done. So by the fact we have something else in the shop, you should tell that the Ramcharger's out and I got a mess to clean up. But first, before we get to the review, full disclaimer, I'm going to use the same review for 3 separate videos detailing the build-up of a Dodge Ramcharger, because quite frankly I changed all 3 things at once, that being the intake manifold and both the front and rear end. And another disclaimer, I don't have a really good way to test the front end because it has a spool in it and I can't put the hubs in and put it under load on the road, and I'm not gonna go out off-road and too much for it, because even if I did, you wouldn't hear it if it was misaligned anyway. But alright, on to the coolness. Disclaimer, I did do both axles. They both have 411s, but the Speedmaster, well, what you call it, intake manifold on it, and it runs good. Idles comfortably at 700 RPM, roughly. Well, if you look straight onto it, it's probably a little closer to 800. Wonder why it looks that way on the camera. I don't know, Nino doesn't line up. Well, actually now I'm looking at it, it's a little high there. I don't know, 800-900. Good enough. Temps are good. I mean, it's never idled like this before. We're gonna go get some gas and get this thing safety inspected because, you know, Pennsylvania. I won't be able to talk too much while I drive until I get up on the highway, due to the fact that this thing's a stick shift. That's the steering wheel, and I only have 2 hands. Okay, till we get going. Alright, so here we are traveling down the road. A believe it or not, according to the speedo, we're doing somewhere close to 50 mile an hour. I never did fix that because it's not calibrated anyway. But for the field, we're driving along and we're doing roughly 2,000 RPM. I almost wish I would have went a little steeper, maybe a set of 456s, but I mean, it's not bad enough that I'm going to go back and redo anything. The 35s and the 411s seem to work really well. The Speedmaster intake manifold fits snugly. It performs as good, if not better. I mean, it's not popping, banging. Whenever I let off the throttle, it used to go pop, 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 and it was always a fight. I could either get this truck to idle, or I could get it to run. And I kind of settled for a balance of crappy and a little bit of both. But now, like whenever I put my foot into it, it pulls. Where before I was constantly rowing between third and fourth gear. So I'm going to consider everything a success. I'm sorry if you're watching this and you know, you watch all the videos and you get the same review. Matter of fact, I'm going to do a disclaimer before I do the review that the review is going to be the same on all three videos. But for, I don't know, roughly $1,000 is what I put into it. It's a totally different vehicle. I think fixing the tie rod ends and that ball joint have definitely tightened up the steering, which I know shouldn't be a surprise, but it's definitely made it more tame. I'm driving along, like I can accelerate in top gear. Everything seems to be functioning as is. We're going to go get this thing safetied, and I'm going to say that's a wrap for this video. Oh, and it starts out in second now, where before I had to start out everything in first gear, and then as soon as I got going in first gear, shift to second, because first gear you just